will appeal to all of them to think about the common man on this.
Looking at what is happening in Nigeria today, are we moving forward?
Things is both for the poor and the rich. It's not people that are rich alone.
Something is going on that they are not telling Nigerians.
Something is really going on that Nigerians need. And the focal point on Pace TV for you to be informed on developments in Nigeria and around the world. You're welcome to your program Focal Point on Pace TV. My name is Kehinde Ojo, and as usual on this program we look at issues making the headlines, issues that are prominent on the front burner within the polity. And today we'll be going straight to Abeokuta. We'll be going to the hilltop where the former president Olusegun Obasanjo is resident, and we'll be looking at the recent developments as relates to him dumping the People's Democratic Party and some activities that led to this particular event. My name is Kehinde Ojo, and today on the program I have with me somebody who is a very, very, very known voice. He is a public affairs analyst, a commentator on issues of democracy, growth and development. He's no other person than Librose Oshoma. You're welcome to Focal Point.
Thank you very much for this opportunity once again.
Yes, let's hear from you. You know all about OBJ. Some people have said he has become the oracle. I don't know if you agree with that, but we just want to know. Could you please tell us about this man that a lot of people have now described as an enigma within the polity in Nigeria?
You know, we have a way of giving big names in this climb, and some of these people enjoy such names, so that's why, you know, the moment they are in the valley or they are out of relevance, they will do everything possible to bring them back to such relevance, and so people begin to talk about them. And so because people like OBJ would always want to enjoy this kind of relevance that the press is currently giving him, at every point you see him do things like this. So I'm not surprised, but for me, I think if only Nigerians will ignore OBJ, it's as irrelevant as the problem we are in now. That's basically.
Okay, when he finally dumped the party, he says he's resigning fully to the, I don't know whether we call it an occupation now, to be an elder statesman. So I need to ask you, that word, elder statesman, what does it mean? And who can we say is an elder statesman in Nigeria?
First and foremost, it's only here, like I said, you'll find out that we have a way with words here. Sometimes you ask yourself when you hear names like that, stakeholders, elder statesmen, and then you ask yourself if, you know, there is a criteria for being a stakeholder in Nigeria. First and foremost, if apart from being in Nigeria, there are other criteria that you must fulfill for you to have a stake in Nigeria. So these people are the only stakeholders, and then now they are the elder statesmen, you know. And when first and foremost, let's begin to look at who a statesman is. A statesman should be able to distinguish himself honorably. And a statesman is a honorable person that you say, look, this person is not just an elder, he's also a statesman. You know, but a situation where we just throw words at people, just the same way you can use the word honorable for anybody, simply because that person is rigged into office. So that's what you come across. I'm most unfortunate, Obasanjo did not realize. He's just realizing now that, oh, I need to retire and become a statesman. And statesman now, very soon, you know, statesmanship will be an occupation in Nigeria. People will say, look, now I'm no more partisan, I'm a statesman. You know, so that's why people will call him all names that they want to address him as. But for me, really, his activities have not shown statesmanship I would score him, F9.
Okay, you said that soon maybe a lot of people will be resigning and taking that as an occupation. Maybe soon we'll begin to have such names like elder statesman, architect, doctor, this.
That's, I tell you very soon.
I see that coming.
We are having elders, this, elder, that, so they would soon add statesman to it. Elder statesman, this, elder statesman, that, elder statesman. This. So,
okay, now let's not go straight to the war. When I say war, I know what I'm saying. It started as a war of words, and some people have even called it a dagger drawn between President Goodluck Jonathan and the former President Olusegun Obasanjo. And the first indication that there was actually a war was at the point where the former president wrote an open letter to Mr. President, and it was published on the pages of the newspaper. How would you, let's go back to that scenario.
For me, first and foremost, also, I would say that when I read, that letter, and then I asked myself, apart from the issues of the snipers being trained and all of that, I won't say they are lies or whether they are true, but for so far we have not seen snipers. We have not seen anybody assassinated the way they were assassination during Obasanjo era. Most of the issues raised were not issues that are not known to us. These are issues that a lot of us had even discussed in the public domain, even under Obasanjo era. And so when it was coming from Obasanjo, people were saying now that it's coming from Obasanjo, maybe the government will listen. And I had cause to ask. These issues were with us, apart from the Chibok girls kidnap and insecurity, even the Niger Delta militancy. Obasanjo had no answer to it. And so these issues had always been with us, and we raised, we talked about it, we flogged them at the, the public domain. And then the response we got from the government then was that we were charlatans, and anybody that dared to talk about them, they didn't know what government was doing, just like the government also is saying now. And so coming from Obasanjo, to me, I just felt, oh, look, this man was looking for relevance, and these are not novel. And now, and typical of him, if you know, that wasn't the first time he was writing letters. But unfortunately, he hates to receive letters. If you remember, during IBB's time, he wrote letters also. During Abacha's time, he wrote letters, which some people said led him to the prisons. And so it appears to me that any time Obasanjo is not in the saddle, you cannot, he pretends to be a statesman. He raises all these issues that are pertinent, that are obvious before us, to give the impression that he, also had cause for concern. And at a point, if you remember, he was also gone in to be the United Nations Secretary General. And so that also gave him the mind to write those letters, to give people the impression that, this is a true Democrat, this is somebody who is concerned about the welfare of the ordinary people. And so when you just oppose it with now, it is easy for people to think that Obasanjo truly means well. So that is why he's writing letters. So those of us that know, that have had cause to analyze, national issues, and also had cause to, weigh his performance also against those he complained about and those he's talking about now. We had seen that he's at par with all of them, and so we now begin to wonder why, this sudden love for the people. And so the only answer that some of us arrived at was that, look, this man, this is his style of looking for relevance, and if he doesn't get it, the whole world can stop until he gets it.
Recently, the President Goodluck Jonathan actually came out for the first time to say some of the reasons why an Obasanjo is directly opposing, the government that, in quote, he actually is instrumental to, installing. Remember when when he installed Yar'Adua, after 1 year or so, they fell apart.
Yeah.
And recently, the president says that Obasanjo wants to run my government. That's why we're having all of this.
I will
view all of this.
I will, to a large extent, agree with that opinion or view, because if you remember, during the Obasanjo 2007 third term saga, even though he had vehemently denied the fact that he never wanted a third term, which was obvious to even the blind and audible to the deaf, Obasanjo wanted somebody that he could control, he could manipulate. And we all know how the PDP primaries in 2007 went, despite of all the people that wanted to have a shot, a go at the presidency then. We, even as a public opinion molder and an analyst, we had cause to analyze these people, and we said, look, Obasanjo is gunning for Yar'Adua because he feels, so look, this man, it's not strong enough, and so I will still be very relevant. And then Goodluck Jonathan, of all the deputy governors or the governors then, nobody expected him to pick Goodluck Jonathan, because Goodluck Jonathan, apart from the fact that as a deputy governor, he was almost relegated to the background. It took Obasanjo's assistance and help to make him a governor. And so he saw people, a lot of us even queried the fact that, look, this is a man who had been so, I'm looking for the word to use now, not too prominent, in politics and in governance. And so what are the criteria that Obasanjo looked at to select this vice presidential candidate? And also, I will not remind you of the Umoru Are You Dead saga. Yeah. And
I was there.
With the hope, exactly, with the hope that when these people finally become, if they win, eventually we saw how he manipulated the process. Even Yar'Adua admitted. And with the hope that he would still have his third term through the back door. But Yar'Adua came and was able to stamp his foot of authority. And that was, the beginning of the problem. Obasanjo didn't like that at all. And we saw it immediately from his comments, his body language, and his criticism. And luckily for him, and unfortunately for the rest of Nigerians, Yar'Adua passed on. And the mantle of leadership, we all know how it fell on Goodluck Jonathan. And Obasanjo still thought it would be easy, like we all saw during 2011 campaign, that it would be easy for him to continue through the back door, seeing President Goodluck Jonathan as a weak fellow. But that was not to be, because the kind of politics we play in Nigeria is that loyalty is sold and bought. Once you are in office, those that were with your predecessor in office will immediately cross carpet because you are a new cook in the kitchen. And so he saw that, including the Buruji Kashamu that he is complaining about today. Obasanjo brought Buruji Kashamu into politics in Ogun State to checkmate the then governor, Tumbagbegan Daniel. And so now, didn't he know that he was a drug addict at that time? And so when I listened to all of this and I cross-checked them with the background facts of where we're coming from, you just see one thing. Obasanjo thought he could have his way. And unfortunately, the new loyalists that we have in the kitchen now, won't allow him to have his way. They looked around and they knew that, okay, if we could get to power, it's only one person that people would naturally listen to, and also his style of criticism. They rushed to Obasanjo and said, look, Papa, we need you to navigate us to power. And when people were asking, how will Obasanjo navigate these people? I said, look, the Obasanjo cannot win election in his ward. The only way he could do it was to start something, criticize the government of the day, run it aground with your criticism, and give the opposition, the necessary support that they need. People will easily say, Obasanjo have said it. Okay. And so, a lot didn't listen.
Some people said this may just be the Ajib syndrome.
And so, exactly, any government in power. Yes. And so he started, by writing letters, criticizing. And if you remember, he said that he had asked the government that he should intervene in Chibok crisis. Eventually, the government gave him a nod. And we didn't hear anything of such again after he was given the go-ahead. That's to tell you Obasanjo's style of politics. And so he kept quiet. And now nobody's talking about the fact that Obasanjo was actually given the go-ahead to go do something just do anything that will bring this crisis to an end. Okay, so which it means he doesn't have a solution to it either.
What you're saying is that his style is install the king and rule the kingdom.
Yeah, and rule the kingdom. And if you cannot do that, then criticize the king out of office.
Okay, you are still on Focal Point on Pace TV, and today we are looking at a very, very strong issue that is prominent, within the polity right now. We're talking about Obasanjo versus Goodluck Jonathan and recent developments where the former president openly destroyed his membership card of the PDP. Don't go away, we'll be back and we'll continue with our interview. Welcome back. You're still on Focal Point, and my guest is still here, Librose Oshoma. You are doing great justice to the topic on the football.
Thank you very much.
This day, and let's go straight to the issue of kingmakers. Is it natural that kingmakers don't really like to be ignored? Because what we are seeing, this crossfire between the former president and the incumbent president looks as if it may be as a result of being ignored.
You use the word kingmaker advisedly because of the brand of politics we practice here. You find out that it's easy for us to use words like that because in our democracy, you can't call the president or the governor a tenured monarch. And that's why they operate as if, we are in what you would call an oligarchy system. And so the king must not be criticized. The king must not, and so you have kingmakers in form of godfathers who will install the governors, who will install the president, and they will expect the governors or the president, as the case may be, to do their bidding, and they would not want to be ignored. But in other climes, naturally, you won't. There are kingmakers everywhere, but the kingmakers install people or support candidates for the greater good of the people. And that is why, even in America, when you say, oh, the presidential candidate has the support of Bill Clinton, you know what that naturally means. But you don't expect a Bill Clinton tomorrow to want to dictate how the affairs of the state should be run. But here, because of selfish reasons, that's why you see people want to continually remain in office in Africa and in Nigeria, and then even when they are browbeaten out of office, they still want to install, they would want to install their stooge to make sure that they still manipulate that stooge from the backstage. And that's why even at the governorship level, you see, quarrel, crisis at the state between the godfathers and the governor. But, and so Obasanjo's own is not an exception. We all know he wanted third term. He spent so much money. There were massive campaigns giving us instances of Malaysia, how they were able to develop because they have somebody who believed in the cause. In spite of all the fraudulent activities that were going on at that time, the ID card scam and all the complaints, even raised by the then party chairman, Audu Ogbe, who now, for personal interest, they are all together again. Obasanjo felt, look, I'm the best thing to happen to you, so I need to remain. And when Nigerians refuse, just like IBB, when people asked him to step aside or pushed him out, he installed Shoneko. Obasanjo thought he could do the same thing by bringing in Yaradua and Goodluck Jonathan. But unfortunately, that arithmetic did not work for him. And so that's why you're seeing all of this criticism, the same way we had seen fallout between godfathers, Ojuzo Kalu and Theodore Oji, even Chimaroku Namani and Nwobudu, and then subsequently Namani and Chime, so many like that. It's a common thing, common phenomenon here.
Fatherism and kingmakerism.
Exactly. And
so, you can interchange them.
Yes, you can interchange them here.
Okay, now let's look at the kind of romance former President Obasanjo has with the opposition. His house has become a sort of mecca for political gladiators, especially those who it could not even meet eye to eye with before now. Do you think is in pursuance of the pull him down at all cost vision that this romance is
yes. To answer your question directly, you'll find out that in Nigeria, basically, what we have, there are no ideologies. All you have is, anything that can navigate me to power. Anything that can railroad me to acquiring that thing that I want to acquire. I wouldn't mind going back to my vomit if that will, propel me to getting that power. And so I wouldn't mind even doing the unthinkable. And so that's why we all knew how it started, by visiting Obasanjo and asking him to come navigate them to power, because they understand the people, the sentimental nature of the people. And once they know that once Obasanjo be what you would call one of the last of the Mohicans, and so people will naturally listen to him because we are sentimental. They will say he was there, so he knows. He's the one that put us in this problem, so he's the one that will take us out of it. Not knowing that Obasanjo will never do anything for public interest. Go and check his antecedent right from, his first time as head of state. And so, going to him, these people in their own little way are godfathers. So they understand the politics of godfatherism. And so going to him, trying to woo him, and also raise him to that pedestrian he always wanted to be, it's like playing his own game with him.
Okay, so like saying my enemy's enemy is my friend.
Exactly. And so with that, they've been able to come together now, and they are enjoying the roller coaster. And let's see how it will last. If eventually they are able to win the poll, I tell you that marriage will not last. You still see Obasanjo back in his table writing letters.
So we should expect more letters should the opposition win the election.
Whoever wins the election, you should expect more letters.
Okay, now let's go straight to the polls. I mean, the poll was shifted, and Obasanjo made a comment that the reason for shifting was because the president is planning to use this period to institute certain plans and programs to favor him during the polls. What do you make of it? Because, if you put this side by side, the PVC issue and the non-preparedness of INEC.
I would not say this. I would not say I disagree with him because it's coming from him. Like I said earlier on, there is nothing Obasanjo will tell me now about national affairs apart from some that are private to him and the government. You can easily deduce what is happening. For me, why anybody that is raising an alarm, is justified. Because if you remember, before now, the National Security Advisor had come out to say, well, I have spoken with the INEC chairman in private, and I have advised him that there's need to shift the poll to give room for collection of PVCs. But in the same vein, INEC had employed ad hoc staffs to distribute these PVCs. And these ad hoc staffs are paid 3,000 naira per day. And so if you extend the tenure, that means INEC will need more money. Has the government budgeted more money for INEC to ensure that this collection is extended? The answer is no. And then when eventually we start hearing rumor of it to be extended and all of that, then the next thing, the National Security Advisor, the Chief of Army Staff, it was alleged, wrote letters to INEC insisting that if it is not shifted, then we cannot guarantee security because we have a new formation in the Northeast, and we hope that in 6 weeks we'll be able to bring it to. And so the first question that came to mind is, a crisis you've not been able to resolve for 6 months, how possible is it that you're going to resolve it in 6 weeks? And then when you just oppose that with Section 26(1) of the Electoral Act, that if you postpone election on the allegation of collection of PVCs, people can easily question or query that because it is not founded in law. You can use security that is easily cogent and verifiable as a yardstick for the postponement. And so they hurriedly had to bring in security. And so if you look at all of this, there are cause for concern. You would naturally begin to raise issues. How come it is the government, it is the army that is, telling INEC to postpone election? If this had come naturally from INEC, irrespective of the reason they gave, like they did in 2011, that we are truly not prepared for what we have on ground, nobody would have complained. But coming from the government, definitely there will be suspicion, and so naturally people would suspect that there is something fishy. So coming from Obasanjo, basically it's like echoing the people's suspicion, and then also pretending as usual to love the people more than they love themselves. Okay.
Hi, sorry I'm late. So how are we going, by bus or taxi?
None of the above.
What do you mean? Do you expect us to walk from here down to school?
Why would you want me to take a taxi or a bus when I've got this?
Seriously? A bicycle?
Not just any bicycle. The Honor E-Electric bicycle is the way to go, especially in a busy city with traffic congestion and heavy pollution. Honor E-Electric bicycle is easy to ride, affordable, maintenance-free, and guaranteed your body fitness. There are many easily affordable models to choose from, and anybody can ride. Honor E electric bicycles are marketed in Nigeria by Honor E Ventures Limited, number 1 Oregon Okpebi Link Road, Oregon Ikeja, Lagos, Nigeria. You can visit our website on www.honorevent.com. Honor E electric bicycles, a transport revolution.
Yes, you've been watching Focal Point, and at this point I want to say thank you for being our guest. My name is Ken Diojo. Do have a wonderful, wonderful day.